the idea, is Bo Nix going to be a top 10 quarterback this year?
They had that. Then they had the Shadur Sanders story.
That's true. I saw that too.
So 3 Colorado stories on the national stage today. So we'll have to get Stink's take on that.
By the way, when it comes to Bo, do you think he is regression proof? Is he sophomore slump proof?
No.
What area or areas would you point to as a potential slide in season 2?
He made a lot of plays with his feet. I think that was probably. I think there were 2 things that surprised us the most about Bo Nix this year. One, his ability to be an effective runner. I mean, honestly, he was their best guy in the ground game all year long. The running backs weren't effective. Bo was the most efficient runner. I think that surprised everybody. I think that has a chance of regressing because I do think teams will look at it and spend an entire offseason breaking down Broncos film, and the book will be out on him. He ain't Lamar Jackson, right? Like, you can game plan for Lamar. You're not taking away his ability to make plays in the ground game. I think you can take it away with Bo Nix. So I think that has a chance to be a little bit of a regression. If you take that away, now he's got to just be effective throwing the ball. The other thing that was a surprise was his ability to throw the deep ball. He had a better arm than I think we all thought. That ain't going to change. His arm's his arm. So, I mean, maybe in 15 years it'll change, but not from year 1 to year 2. So I think if you take away his ability to move the chains and make plays with his feet, can he stand in the pocket and convert on 3rd and 8? That, to me, is the part that if he can't, we could see some regression.
Okay, but if you see defenses try to take that part away, won't that perhaps make him in year 2 with a year under his belt of reading and being able to recognize NFL defenses, another year of being able to get more on the same page with Sean and his play calling and the rhythm of the play calling, not to mention maybe even opening up the playbook a little bit more, that should add to what he can do in year 2 as opposed to worrying about regression? It
could, but I think one of the ways defenses I think will adjust is, hey, don't over-pursue with this guy, right? I know we want to come off the edge and get to the quarterback, but we got to contain him, right? Defensive tackles, just don't let him step up in the pocket. Just keep him there. All right, well, the way to beat that if you're an offense, because now you're going to have slightly more time. You're going to have another beat in the pocket because they're not coming at you just with their hair on fire. You got to have playmakers. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm looking at it saying, I don't think Cortland's going to beat us. I don't think Vele's going to beat us. I don't think Troy Franklin's going to beat us. So you have to have somebody on the outside step up and, like, man, if we give Bo Nix an extra second, that guy's now going to be open. Well, who's that going to be? Maybe Evan Ingram? I don't know. There's a counter to everything that a team does to you. But do the Broncos have the pieces to help Bo Nix counter what opposing defenses are going to do to try and take that away?
I suppose there could be. I just think it's onward and upward with him. I think the arrow's pointing up because you saw everything he did as a rookie without a whole lot of talent around him. I mean, let's be honest. There was a reason why we were talking about these rankings last summer, roster rankings that had the Broncos listed, 30, 31, 29 out of 32 rosters. So I got to believe for him to be able to show the way that he did with the limited amount of talent around him, you assume, until proven differently, that they're going to upgrade the talent around him. Another year of experience, another year working together with his primary play caller. I don't know. And then I look at his traits. I just don't see a lot of reasons why there should be any kind of regression. I really don't. To me, I think the arrow's going up. I'd be stunned if we just watched him out there like week after week, and by the end of the season, we're like, wow, that was just a struggle for him out there. I just would be shocked at that.
The playoff game was a struggle.
Well, yeah, a playoff game.
The opening drive was impressive, and then they did nothing after that. And listen, I'll talk about this defense all the time of how after Thanksgiving they were the worst defense in football, and in the playoff game they couldn't get the Bills off the field. But you know what? The Broncos got the ball after every Bills possession and couldn't keep it and keep Josh Allen standing on the sidelines. So their offense was awful in that game. Bo Nix wasn't the number one problem, but he also wasn't the number one solution to it. So I wouldn't shock me if he's a top 10 quarterback. It wouldn't. It also wouldn't shock me if he regressed to a bottom 10 quarterback, because I think his numbers were a little skewed because Sean Payton schemed things up to make Bo Nix shine. All right? Are they going to get multiple touchdowns off the play where Nate Atkins blocks to the right and then drags to the left all the way across the field, and he's wide open and you and I could have completed that pass? Probably not. It worked last year because they were able to scheme it up, but then at some point you're going to have to make plays and make tougher throws. He showed the ability. The 2 long touchdowns to Marvin Mims, great throws, great plays. But that needs to become more the norm, not the exception. I think his numbers were a little skewed. I could see him taking a step back.
Well, let us say good morning to Mark Schlereth, who joins us now. And we got him for the full 2 hours, right? No more commitments with Fox executives today? We're good?
No. My Fox executive commitments ended yesterday after I had a delicious lunch.
Oh, good for you. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed.
Where's Stoke, though?
Stoke is he's on assignment doing Stoke things.
Hey, what did he say? This guy. What is it with this guy?
It's
always
something.
with this guy? It's always something with this guy.
Well, you could probably I'll give you 2 guesses. 1, what he's doing today, and 2, who he's with today. And we'll leave it at that.
Normally he plays golf after the show, unless, of course, Peyton says, hey, we're going to play some golf today. We're going to tee off at, 8:30. Yes, sir. Yeah, whatever you want, Peyton. I'll be there.
Hey, say good morning to James.
James, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm great, Stink. I'm great. We enjoyed watching a little breakfast ball this morning. You guys had a lot of Colorado-centric topics.
We did, as a matter of fact, because, Shedeur Sanders going to be working out an exclusive one-on-one workout with the Giants. So that's, big news. We had CU retiring jerseys, which seemed a little bit premature, but, I guess whatever. But maybe that's your school, buddy. I don't,
Yep.
I don't claim to be – I don't claim to be the guy who has all the knowledge on retiring jerseys, but it seems a little early before the draft even takes place to start retiring jerseys.
Well, let's get to that. We will get to that. But we also saw you you had a Nugget story. You guys were debating Josh Kroenke's comments about saying he failed both Calvin Booth and Michael Malone. You also, and we'll get to that as well, but I wanted you to jump right in where we just jumped off, and that was discussing Bo Nix. You guys had a topic about do you think Bo Nix could be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this year? What was your guys' conversation like about that?
Well, I don't think the guys feel like he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, and I understand, there's a lot of things, the sophomore slumps, all the things that go on, do you continue to build the program around him? But here's where I kind of stand on the ability of Bo Nix to become a top 10 quarterback. The guy was absolutely unbelievable last year, considering he was a rookie, considering he doesn't have a prominent, and you wouldn't think of anybody on that roster at the receiver position to be a legit top number 1 receiver. It's a lot of good number 2s, right? So that's kind of the passing game there. You didn't have a tight end that produced at all. So you didn't have that joker matchup tight end, which is imperative in today's game. So you didn't have that. And, oh, by the way, you didn't really run the ball particularly well. So you still were, arguably, you could have been the Rookie of the Year. Had Jaden Daniels not led the team in Washington to the playoffs, to the NFC Championship, your numbers, I think you were the number 1 producer as far as TDs are concerned. You had unbelievable numbers. And we watched you develop from week 1 on to where early we're talking about footwork issues, and you just progressed and you just continued to build. So is it feasible? Yeah. Is it likely? No. But is it feasible that you could become a top 10 quarterback? Sure, it's feasible.
Yeah, Stink, I buy that. It wouldn't shock me, especially if they add some pieces around him, that he becomes a top 10 quarterback. But Mike was posing the question to me of, do I think he's regression proof? And I don't. And I think the biggest concern I have is I was shocked. I think most people were surprised with his ability to make plays with his feet. I don't think when he was coming out of Oregon, we looked at him that way. And that was, I mean, honestly, most weeks, that was the best part of the running game was Bo Nix. But I do think teams can, once they, spend an entire offseason studying the guy and figuring out where his weaknesses are, he can run around, but he ain't Lamar Jackson. He's not a guy you can't game plan to take that away. If teams take that away from Bo Nix and he just has to be a pocket passer and they don't add pieces around him, none of those things are outside the realm of possibilities either. I could see him having a bit of a regression. I don't think he's regression proof. I'm not predicting it, but I think there's a chance he takes a little bit of a slide backward based on that.
Yeah, nobody's regression proof, but I would say, were his scrambles, were his runs more designed, or were they scrambles? And my answer to that would be they were scrambles. They were, they weren't designed runs. They were things when things finally broke down, his ability to get out, attack the line of scrimmage, still have his eyes downfield, but then take off and get 30, 25 yards. That's not going to change. And ultimately, if you're a team that's facing him, you're not facing him like he's Lamar Jackson, meaning you're not going to spy different guys, cage rush Bo Nix, keep him in the pocket because you're so worried about him escaping. It's not what you're going to do. So, I think the ability to continue to run the football, to be productive in those situations, that's not going anywhere. And that wasn't a first choice. It wasn't like, hey, my first read isn't open, I can't get through progressions, let me take off and run. No, he could still get through progressions, but when things did break down, he certainly ran the ball and ran it effectively. And I keep looking at, like you talked about, I think they'll be better in the passing game. Ingram helps that out. Will they get a receiver in the draft? Potentially. I think there's no question they're going to address their running back room and will have a, kind of a bell cow type of guy. So I would say the odds of him regressing this season are very slim.
You guys also talked, as we did, about the CU decision to retire the numbers of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. I'll be honest, when I first saw this story, I thought it was
duped.
I thought it was a dupe. I thought it was like late April Fools. I thought it was a gag. I thought it was something that was, made up under a false Twitter handle or something like that. I can't believe it. I mean, I get the idea of retiring Travis Hunter's number. Guy won a Heisman. It's the most prestigious award in college football. There aren't many of them out there. And if you're lucky enough to have one, yeah, that guy's number probably should be retired. But Shedeur Sanders, listen, and I know this is going to come across as me, bashing Shedeur. This is not. Understand the rarefied air we're talking about here when we discuss this. Shedeur Sanders was a very good player for CU. He was instrumental in turning around what was an awful, awful program. But let's remember, at the end of the day, we're talking about 2 years in which they went a combined 13-12 and 0-1 in a bowl game. I'm sorry. I just don't think that is number retirement worthy, and I'm not alone. Darren Cheverini on Twitter took to saying retiring numbers is a huge honor and something that should never be taken lightly. I believe strongly that there should be a cooling off period so that decisions are not made out of emotion. Players, Colorado is retiring these numbers before recognizing previous great players in CU history needs to be addressed. Players such as Darian Hagan, Alfred Williams, Dion Figures, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Russell, Michael Westbrook, Daniel Graham, Cordell Stewart, Chad Brown, and countless other great Colorado players. Legacies need time to be evaluated and proper steps should be taken so history is preserved properly. I completely agree with that. James, you're a CU guy. You're very, very, very demanding with every team in town, but I do think you have a soft spot for CU. Are they making a mistake in retiring Shedeur Sanders, number 2?
No, he's the greatest quarterback in the history of the program. And I don't think it's particularly close. And he plays the most important position in football. 2 years after he got there, when they were 1-11 and the worst program in college football, 2 years later, they were a win at Kansas away from being in the Big 12 title game, which would have put them one win away from being in the playoff.
Yes, well, ifs and buts.
Yeah, but that's a remarkable turnaround. Remarkable. So, yeah, their overall record wasn't great, but considering where they were when he got there, and he was the most important part of that puzzle. Travis Hunter was the best player. He should have won the Heisman Trophy. He should get his number retired. There's a precedent for it. Rashaan Salam's the only player since 1969 to have his number retired. Why? Because he won a Heisman Trophy. So Travis Hunter should get it retired. But if Travis Hunter was there and Shedeur Sanders wasn't, they would have been an awful football team. If Shedeur Sanders was there and Travis Hunter wasn't, they would have still been probably about what they were. And I think he's arguably the most important player in the history of the program.
Oh,
Tell me who's been more important.
for a 13-12 team that went 0-1 in a bowl game.
They were 1-11 when he
I
got there.
don't
Their
care.
only win was an overtime victory over awful
So
Cal.
retiring numbers comes down to simply being able to take a team that was irrelevant and make them average. That's
In
worthy of
2
retiring.
years.
That's number for a program that, by the way, up until this point has retired 4. That's it. 4 numbers in the history of their program. 4.
Again,
And a quarterback of a team that went 13-12 and 0-1 in the bowl game should be part of number 5 and 6.
tell me somebody who's more important. The next most important player in the history of that program is Salinesi. Because Salinesi came in there. They were awful. He helped make them a competitive football team. Darian Hagan took over that team when Salinesi got sick. Darian Hagan was a great player, but that team was already turning the corner. Sal helped them turn the corner. Then you throw in the factors of how Sal was this, kind of rallying point and all the rest of that went with him being sick. But who else was that important? All those guys you mentioned, great players. But if they don't go there, those programs were loaded. They still were going to be good. They weren't going to be any good if Shedeur Sanders wasn't there the last 2 years.
I don't understand. I don't understand the timeline on this thing. Can't we let the smoke settle? Can't we wait till after the draft? Can't we let a couple of years pass? Shouldn't there be a little bit of time before you decide all of a sudden that these guys are getting their jerseys retired? I stand like I'm with Mike. Like I don't like the rhetoric of, oh, Shedeur doesn't have a strong enough arm, or Shadeur's not athletic enough, or Shedeur this, that. Like, I don't like any of that when it comes to the draft because I think most of it is irrelevant. But when it comes to retirement of jerseys, like, I think that it's twofold. I think the players got to be really special, and I think the team has to, like, you got to win something. And I'm with you, James. Like, the turnaround of the program was unreal. Absolutely unreal. But to all of a sudden go, hey, man, we had this unbelievable turnaround. We were 9-4. Let's retire 2 jerseys? Or for 9-4? We're going to retire. We're retiring jerseys.
Well,
and there is a history of a lot of guys that I would probably look at that were on that national championship team to say, hey, man, like those guys should be recognized before guys that just finished the college football season are less than a year removed should get their jerseys retired.
And plus, James, can I also add before you respond? What adds to this is the fact of Deion's presence in all this, and this screams of nepotism. It screams of Deion. Mark talking about, hey, why can't there be more of a time here to let this play out, let the legacy be established, wait a few years. Deion's not all about that. He's all about, striking now and, the promotion, the marketing aspect of all that. And that's what I feel this is. This is a dad making sure that his son's legacy is protected.
I get why
it's nepotism.
That's the perception. The timing of it is weird. It does lead me to wonder, was Deion trying to do this while he can because he knows he's going to be gone in a year or two? Maybe. So that's got me a little worried as a CU fan. The name thing of it, I get it. But let's say it had been different. Let's say he'd have come here from Jackson State with Travis and with Juju, and they did the exact same thing. And Juju, we're looking at it going, he might be the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. So the Buffs have had Bo Matthews went number 2 in 1974. Next highest guy was 4th overall. So he might be the 2nd highest picked player in the history of the program, right? Way ahead of all those other guys you mentioned, and his name was Juju, and that was the guy who led this turnaround. None of us would have a problem with it. So we can't. it's unfair to judge this based on the fact that he's the coach's kid. The timing of it stinks. But again, I can make the case he's the most important player in the history of the program ahead of all those other guys. Go back to the national championship team. Darian Hagan, great quarterback. Gets hurt in the Orange Bowl. Charles Johnson comes in, wins MVP. They win the game. Eric Bieniemy, great running back. If he'd have got hurt, J.J. Flanagan, who also wore number 2. J.J. Flanagan was an unbelievable player, a 5-star recruit coming into Colorado. They could have got by without Eric Bieniemy. Shedeur Sanders gets hurt any of the next 2 years, or last 2 years, even with Travis Hunter on the field, they'd be terrible.
Okay, and with him they went 13-12, 0-1 in a bowl game. Mark?
Well, he didn't start one of those games. He didn't play one of the other ones. They were 13-10 with him.
That changes everything. Put it up there.
Yeah. I would disagree. I think your premise was if the guy's name wasn't Shedeur Sanders that did the same thing at the quarterback position, you're saying that guy will get his jersey retired?
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that the name Shedeur Sanders isn't why. It's not about, hey, listen, I'm with you. What he did was amazing. The turnaround this program had was amazing. But if his name was Joe Smith, he would not be getting his jersey retired.
Well, there's also a part of it. Not only is it the record, right? Like, and I get it. It's, they were 13-10 in games where he started or played the majority of it. There was also a bunch of unbelievable moments. The comeback against CU in year 1, a great moment. The Hail Mary this year, a great moment. The comeback at Arizona State, a great moment. How many great moments has this program had in the last 20 years?
You're right. All of that is exactly right. It doesn't mean you're jersey number retirement worthy. They weren't that great, James.
Well,
They weren't that great. They were really good. They weren't that great.
I don't think jerseys should be retired anyway. I would have much preferred they said, hey, the number 12 is now going to become this honorary thing, and who's ever the best all-around player on the roster every single year gets to wear number 12. I would rather have that than you retire it. I would rather have that. I don't know what you would do with number 2, but, hey, the quarterback is always number 2 or whatever the thing was. They do it down at LSU. I think it's the number 18.
Yeah, they've done it at Q's forever with number 44. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
which would be
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
But, no, I think he was a phenomenal player up there. I think where he's going to go in the draft proves that. I think he's in rarefied air when it comes to all-time buffs. And I think he doesn't get a fair evaluation because his last name is Sanders.
Just to be clear, you were on record earlier today saying that if Sean Payton goes 8-9 next year, and his record after 3 years is what?
It would then be 26-26.
26-26,
including the
that's room for being fired. But Shedeur Sanders can be the quarterback of a team that goes 13 and what do we establish?
13-10 in games he started.
13-10, including 0-1 in a bowl game. But that's worthy of getting his number retired.
All right, what would Sean Payton have to go this year to have a record of one game over 500?
Well, he's one game over 500 right now, so you'd have to go 9-8, sneak into the playoffs, and lose the playoff game.
9-8, sneak into the playoffs, lose the playoff game, and then he retires. Would he go in the Ring of Fame?
Can we just be honest? Shedeur Sanders getting his number retired is
fugazi.
It's John Lynch being on the Ring of Fame. That's what
oh
it
my
is.
gosh.
That's what it is.
Was John Lynch the most important defensive player in the history of the Broncos?
Look, Shedeur Sanders was instrumental in making
he saved
the
the
CU program relevant.
He saved the program.
Well, guess what? He's going to move on, and Deion Sanders, as long as Deion Sanders is here, this program is going to continue to be relevant and more.
The attention that this program got because Shedeur was here. The money that this program got because Shedeur was here. Oh, my gosh.
Deion.
You guys are such Sanders haters.
All right. We will continue this conversation. Also, Mark, you're going to love this one. What we're seeing with the Nuggets, James has a scenario that we could be seeing the same thing a year